Myanmar.
Oh, okay, okay. Hmm. What? Oh. I was like, I could have sworn I'll be on online free. Now the question is, what is up, Jordan? How are you, mate? What? What own Epic? That's the question. What's up, Bankad? How are you? How are we this evening, guys? It is good to be back. I had a bit of a I have Death Stranding. There you go. I have a whole game suggestions server in my head. Dishonored. Good to be back. Yeah, I was feeling a little crook today, and I had work all day, so I enjoyed a bit of a relax. I mean, I still went to the gym and everything. Thank you for the following, Gad. Appreciate you, mate. It man. Mortal Shell. I have a lot of games. Prey? The heck? The Throne. This. Hmm. Sounds interesting. Well, unfortunately, I don't really have the money to be spending on video games right now. So I only really play the games that I already own before, but I'll keep it in mind. It does look cool though, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Life, you know? Life. But I honestly, I completely forgot I had Epic Games. What games I had? I had remastered Tomb Raider. Let's go. Hell is other player mode. Those who are from Australia, does anybody have any from Australia who have played GTA recently and GTA Australia banned? Like you can still go into the casino, you just can't freaking. Which is crazy to me, man. Absolutely ridiculous. What is up, Carnival? He made it early this time, guys. Carnival has arrived early. Hi, Jenny. How are you? Thank you. Party is on. Woo! I'm good. I'm about to read a chapter of Harry Potter. We're up to Goblet of Fire, which the chapter is actually Goblet of Fire. Crazy. Books over here. Books over here still. We are up to chapter 16. In other words, the Goblet of Fire in the Goblet of Fire. Did you just wake up, or did you stay up all night? Whoa, 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 whoa. Gotta give it a little bit longer. Guess people. Decent sized chapter, 20 page, 10 page. Not too bad. You haven't slept. Well, maybe you should go sleep. Maybe go. Has anybody played any of the Borderlands games? Fire. I don't know who created it. I found it online. It was free. Thank you for the follow, Jenny. I found it online. It was free. I wonder, reckon it'll take the download 700 meg. Yeah, I found it online. It was free, which is pretty dope. Going pretty. Chapter 15. The other schools arrived. Sorry, I'm gonna check this game out quickly, then we'll go. Yeah, the other schools arrived, and that's about it. What is? What is this game? Ah. Ah. It's so cute. Whee. Whoa. This is cute. Let's lock in now, guys. Time to lock in. Listening to the Song of Time. I am so tired, by the way. I am extremely. Go to bed. Wake up. The follow on Instagram, but and I'm still feeling pretty sick. It was a long day, and I'm still sick. So I worked. I mean, when I said long day, it was a normal day, but I worked from 9 to 5 with a little break in between. Break, I went to the gym. Pushed it. Pull day, sorry. I got a pull day. Now I'm home. I've had dinner. But it's just more like, you know how when you're sick, your body like takes energy from certain places. You're here. Mate, I just do it. You know how your body like it takes away from certain aspects, like drains some of your energy, put that energy towards healing you. So it's like I'm just always tired. Hey. But like it's like cool. I get to read books. I don't think you guys understand how much I like books. Are you ready, Jenny? I actually go follow all my socials too. Pretty cool, man. I post on all. Jenny, you are in the Discord server, Jenny. I will be reading now, guys. I'll try and keep up to date with what's happening in the chat, but it seems to be pretty quiet night tonight, which is nice because I'm tired. Okay, wait. I have an idea. You know, it'll be fire. Pretty annoying when she. Guys, do you want to say hello to Jill before I start reading? Who it is? Who it is? It's Jill. Hello. Hello. Hello, Jill. Says hello, guys. She was very excited to be in my most recent Instagram post. For those who haven't seen, link in bio. I try and post at least once a week on just photos. Hi Aisha, how are you? I try and post at least once a week of just photos of me wrap around my life. And she made an appearance time when I took her for a walk. She lasted about 100 meters before she got tired because she's old. Don't tell her that though. She thinks she's a puppy still. But she lasted about 100 meters. Then we turned around and went home. Wait. I'm gonna start reading now. Tired. I didn't go to training because I'm feeling pretty sick. But I went to the gym instead. So. But I'm about to start reading Aisha, so we're getting into it now. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Chapter 16, The Goblet of Fire. I don't believe it, Ron said in a stunned voice as the Hogwarts students filed back up the steps behind the party from Durmstrang. Crumb, Harry! Victor Crumb! Jill! Stop! Oh my gosh. Dog, man. Heaven's sake, Ron. He's only a Quidditch player, said Hermione. Only a Quidditch player? said Ron, looking at her as though he couldn't believe his ears. Hermione, he's one of the best seekers in the... Ew. Oh my god. This dog, man. In the world, I had no idea he was still in school. As they recrossed the entrance hall with the rest of the Hogwarts students, heading for the Great Hall, Harry saw Lee Jordan jumping up and down on the soles of his feet to get a better look at the back of Crumb's head. Several 6th grade girls were frantically searching their pockets as they walked. No, I don't believe it. I haven't got a single quill on me. You think you'd sign my hat with my lipstick? Here, Lee, Hermione said loftily as they passed the girls, now squabbling over lipstick. I'm getting his autograph. If I can, said Ron. You haven't got a quill, have you? What's that? I don't, your first message didn't come through. Nope, they're upstairs in my bag, said Harry. They walked over to the Gryffindor table and sat down. Ron took care to sit on the side facing the doorway because Crumb and his fellow Durmstrang students were all still gathered around it, apparently unsure where they should. Think of the follow, JC. Students from Bucks Batons had chosen seats at the Ravenclaw table. They were still looking around the Great Hall with glum expressions on their faces. 3 of them were still clutching scarves and shawls around their heads. Not that cold, Hermione irritably, who was watching them. Why didn't they bring cloaks? Over here! Come sit over here, Ron hissed. Over here! Hermione budged up. Hermione, budge up, make space! What? Too late, Ron said bitterly. Victor Crumb and his fellow Durmstrang students had settled themselves at the Slytherin table. Harry could see Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle looking very smug about them. As he watched, Malfoy bent towards Crumb to speak. Thank you for the heart, Miard. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, that's right. Marm him up, Malfoy, said Ron scathingly. I bet Crumb can see right through him, though. Bet he gets people fawning all over him all the time. Where do you reckon they're going to sleep? We could offer them a place in our dormitory, Harry. I wouldn't mind giving him my bed. I could keep on the camp bed. Hermione snorted. They look a lot happier than the Bucks Batons, said Harry. The Durmstrang students were pulling off their heavy furs and looking up the black ceiling with expressions of interest. A couple of them were picking up the golden plates and goblets and examining them, apparently impressed. Up at the staff table, Filch the caretaker was adding chairs. He was wearing his mouldy old tailcoat in honour of the occasion. Harry was surprised to see that he added 4 chairs, 2 on either side of Dumbledore. But there's only 2 extra people, Harry said. Why is Filch putting up 4 chairs? Who else is coming? I don't think there's many people here tonight, Arden, but welcome. Said Ron vaguely. He was still staring avidly at Crumb. Hi. When all the students had entered the hall and sat down at their tables, the staff entered, filling up the top table and taking their seats. Last in line were Professor Dumbledore, Professor Karkaroff, and Madame Maxime. When their headmistresses appeared, the pupils from Bucks Batons leapt to their feet. 2 of the Hogwarts students laughed. Bucks Batons appeared quite unembarrassed and did not resume their seats until Madame Maxime had sat down on Dumbledore's left-hand side. Dumbledore, however, remained standing, and silence fell over the Great Hall. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts, and most particularly guests, said Dumbledore, beaming around at the foreign students. I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to Hogwarts. I hope and trust that your stay here will be both comfortable and enjoyable. One of the Bucks Baton girls, still clutching a muffler around her head, gave what was unmistakably a derisive laugh. No one's making you stay, said Hermione, bristling at her. The tournament will be officially opened at the end of the feast, said Dumbledore. I now invite you all to eat, drink, and make yourselves at home. He sat down, and Harry saw Karkaroff lean forward and engage him in conversation. The dishes in front of them filled with the food as usual. The house elves in the kitchen seemed to have pulled out all the stops. There were a greater variety of dishes in front of them than Harry had ever seen, including several that were definitely foreign. What's that? Said Ron, pointing a large dish of some sort of shellfish stew that stood beside a large steak and kidney pudding. Bouillabaisse, said Hermione. Bless you, said Ron. It's French, said Hermione. I had it on holidays summer before last. It's very nice. Thank you for the share, Coco. I'll take your word for it, said Ron, helping himself to black pudding. Great Hall seemed somehow more crowded than usual, even though there were barely 20 additional students there. Perhaps it was their differently colored uniforms stood out so thickly among the black of the Hogwarts. Now that they had removed their furs, the Durmstrang students were revealed to be wearing robes of deep blood red. Hagrid sidled in the hall through a door behind the staff table 20 minutes after the start feast. He slid into his seat at the end and waved at Harry, Ron, and Hermione with very heavily bandaged hands. "Goop's done. Doing all right, Hagrid?" Harry called. "Thriving," Hagrid called back happily. "Yeah, I bet they are," said Ron quietly. "Looks like they've finally found a food they like, doesn't it? It's Hagrid's fingers." That moment, a voice said, "Excuse me, are you wanting the bubblies?" It was a girl from Bax Batons who had laughed during Dumbledore's speech. He had finally removed her muffler. A long sheet of silvery blonde hair fell over her waist. She had large, deep blue eyes and a very white ear. Ron went purple. He stared up at her, opened his mouth in reply. Nothing came out except a faint gurgling noise. "Yeah, have it," said Harry, pushing the dish towards the girl. "You have finished with it?" "Yeah," said Ron breathlessly. "Yeah, it was excellent." The girl picked up the dish and carried it off towards the Ravenclaw table. Ron was still goggling at the girl as though he had never seen one before. Harry started to laugh. The sound seemed to jog Ron back to his senses. "She's a Veela," he said hoarsely to Harry. "Of course she isn't," said Hermione tartly. "I don't see anyone gaping at her like an idiot." But she wasn't entirely right about that. As the girl crossed the hall, many boys' heads turned, and some of them seemed to have become temporarily speechless, just like Ron. "I'm telling you, that's not a normal girl," said Ron, leaning sideways so he could keep a clear view of her. "They don't make them like that at Hogwarts." "They make them okay at Hogwarts," said Harry without thinking. Cho Chang happened to be sitting only a few spaces away from the girl with silvery hair. "When you're both done, put your eyes back in," said Hermione briskly. "You'll be able to see who just arrived." She was pointing up at the table. The two remaining empty seats had been filled. Ludo Bagman was now sitting on Professor Karkaroff's other side, while Mr. Crouch, Percy's boss, was next to Madame Maxime. "What are they doing here?" Sorry, got distracted by an inappropriate mess. "They organized the tournament, didn't they?" said Hermione. "I suppose they wanted to be here to see it start." When the second course arrived, they noticed a number of unfamiliar puddings, too. Ron examined an odd sort of paler blancmange closely, then moved it carefully a few inches to the right so that it would be clearly visible from the Ravenclaw table. The girl, who looked like a Veela, appeared to have eaten enough, however, and did not come over to get it. Once the golden plates had been wiped clean, Dumbledore stood up again. A pleasant sort of tension seemed to fill the hall now. Harry felt a slight thrill of excitement, wondering what was coming. Several seats alongside them from them, Fred and George were leaning forwards, staring at Dumbledore with great concentration. "The moment has come," Dumbledore, smiling around at the sea of upturned faces. "The Triwizard Tournament is about to start. I would like to say a few words of explanation before we bring in the casket." "The what?" Harry muttered. Ron shrugged. "Just to clarify the procedure which we will be following this year. But firstly, let me introduce, for those who do not know them, Mr. Bartimus Crouch, head of the Department of International Magical Cooperation." There was a smattering of polite applause. "And Ludo Bagman, head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports." There was a much louder round of applause for Bagman than for Crouch, perhaps because of the fame as a beater, or simply because he looked so much more likable. He acknowledged it with a jovial wave of his hand. Bartimus Crouch did not smile or wave when his name was announced. Remembering him in his suit at the Quidditch World Cup, Harry thought he looked kind of strange in wizard robe. His toothbrush mustache and severe parting looked very odd next to Dumbledore's long white hair and beard. "Mr. Bagman and Mr. Crouch have worked tirelessly over the last few months on the arrangements of the Triwizard Tournament," Dumbledore continued, "as they will be joining myself, Professor Karkaroff, and Madame Maxime on the panel who will judge the champion's efforts." At that moment of the word champion, the attentiveness of the listening students seemed to sharpen. Professor Dumbledore had noticed their sudden stillness, for he smiled and said, "The casket, then, if you please, Mr. Filch." Filch had been lurking unnoticed in the corner of the hall, now approached Dumbledore carrying a great wooden chest, encrusted with jewels. It looked extremely odd. A murmur of excited interest rose from the watching students. Dennis Creevy actually stood in his chair to see it properly, but being so tiny, his head hardly rose above anyone. The instructions for the task as a champion this year have already been examined by Mr. Crouch and Mr. Bagman, said Dumbledore, as Filch placed the chest carefully on the table before him. And they have made the necessary arrangements for each challenge. There will be 3 tasks spaced throughout the school year. They will test the champions in many different ways. Their magical prowess, their daring, their power of dedication, and, of course, their ability to cope with danger. At the last word, the hall was filled with a silence so absolute that nobody seemed to be breathing. As you know, 3 champions compete in the tournament, Dumbledore went on calmly. 1 from each of the participating schools. They will be marked on how they will each perform each of their tasks, and the champion with the highest total score after the 3 win the Triwizard Tournament. The champion will be chosen by an impartial selector, the Goblet of Fire. Dumbledore now took out his wand and tapped 3 times upon the top of the casket. The lid creaked slowly open. Dumbledore reached inside and pulled out a large, roughly hewn wooden cup. It would have been entirely unremarkable had it not been full to the brim with dancing blue-white flame. Dumbledore closed the casket and placed the goblet carefully on top of it, where it would be clearly visible to anyone in the hall. Anyone wishing to submit themselves as champion must write their name and school clearly upon the slip of parchment. I'm in a pain, actually. No, take it. Good. Come and take it. In a real pain. Thank you. Dumbledore now took out his wand, blah, blah. Dumbledore closed the casket and placed the goblet on top of it where it was. Anyone wishing to submit themselves must write their name and school clearly upon a slip of parchment. Drop it into the goblet, said Dumbledore. Aspiring champions have 24 hours to put their names forward. Tomorrow night, Halloween, the goblet will return the names of the 3 it has judged most worthy to represent their school. The goblet will be placed in the entrance hall tonight, where it will be freely accessible to all those wishing to compete. To ensure that no underage students yield temptation, Dumbledore, I will be drawing an age line around the Goblet of Fire once it has been placed in the entrance hall. Nobody under the age of 17 will be able to cross this line. Finally, I wish to impress upon any of you wishing to enter the competition, it is not to be entered lightly. Once a champion has been selected by the Goblet of Fire, he or she is obligated to see the tournament through to the end. The placing of your name in the goblet constitutes a binding magical contract. There can be no change of heart once you've become champion. Please be very sure, therefore, that you are wholeheartedly prepared to play, or you drop your name into the goblet. I think it is time for bed. Good night to you all. Ah, an age line, said Fred Weasley, his eyes glinting as they made their way across the hall to the doors in the entrance hall. Well, that should be filled by an aging potion, shouldn't it? And once your name's in the goblet, you're laughing. It can't tell whether you're 17 or not. But I don't think anyone under the age of 17 will stand the chance, said Hermione. We haven't learnt enough. Speak for yourself, said George shortly. You'll try and get in, won't you, Harry? Harry briefly thought of Dumbledore's insistence that nobody under the age of 17 should submit a name. But then, the wonderful picture of himself winning the Triwizard Cup filled his mind again. He wondered how angry Dumbledore would be if someone younger than the 17 did find a way to get an age over the line. Where is he? Said Ron, who wasn't listening to a word of this conversation, but looked through the crowd to see what had become of Crumb. Dumbledore didn't say where Durmstrang people are sleeping, did they? But his query was answered almost immediately. They went level with the Slytherin table now, and Karkaroff had just bustled up to the students. Thank you, I try my best. Back to the ship, then, he was saying. Victor, how are you feeling? Did you eat enough? Should I have sent some more mulled wine from the kitchens? Harry saw Crumb shake his head as he pulled on his furs. Professor, I would like some wine, said one of the Durmstrang boys hopefully. I wasn't offering to you, Polikoff, snapped Karkaroff, his warmly paternal air vanishing in an instant. I noticed you have dribbled food all down the front of your robes again. Disgusting, boy! Karkaroff turned and led his students towards the doors, reaching them at exactly the same time as Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Harry stopped to let him walk through first. Thank you. Karkaroff carelessly glancing at them. And then Karkaroff froze. His head turned back to Harry and stared at him as though he couldn't believe his eyes. Behind their headmaster, the students from Durmstrang came to a halt too. Karkaroff's eyes moved slowly up Harry's face and fixed upon his scar. The Durmstrang students were carefully staring at Harry cautiously too. Out of the corner of his eye, Harry saw comprehension dawn on a few of their faces. The boy with food all down his front nudged the girl next to him, pointed openly at Harry's forehead. Yeah, that's Harry Potter, said a growling voice behind them. Professor Karkaroff spun around. Mad-Eye Moody was standing there, leaning heavily on his staff, his magical eye glaring unblinkingly at the Durmstrang headmaster. The colour drained from Karkaroff's face as Harry watched. A terrible look of mingled fury and fear came across his face. You, he said, staring at Moody as though unsure he was really seeing him. Me, said Moody grimly, and unless you got anything to say to Potter, Karkaroff, you might want to move. You're blocking the doorway. It was true. Half the students in the hall were now waiting behind them, looking over each other's shoulders to see what was causing a hold-up. Without another word, Karkaroff swept his students away from him. Moody watched him out of sight with his magical eye fixed upon his back, and looked intense dislike upon his mutilated face. As the next day was Saturday, most of the students would normally have had breakfast late. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, however, were not alone in rising much earlier than they usually did at weekends. When they went down to the entrance hall, they saw about 20 people milling around, eating some eating toast, all examining the goblet of fire. It had been placed in the center of the hall, on the stool that normally bore the sorting hat. A thin golden line had been traced on the floor, forming a circle 10 feet around it in every direction. Anyone put their name in yet? Harry asked the third-year girl eagerly. All the Durmstrang lot, she replied. But I haven't seen anyone from Hogwarts yet. Bet some of them put it in last night after we'd all gone to bed, said Harry. I would have done it if it had been me. Wouldn't want anyone watching. What if the goblet just gobbled you right back out again? Someone laughed behind Harry. Turning, he saw Fred, George, and Lee Jordan hurrying down the staircase, all three of them looking extremely excited. Done it! Fred said in a triumphant voice to Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Just taking it. What? Said Ron. The aging potion, dumb brains, said Fred. 1 drop each, said George, rubbing his hands together with glee. We only need to be a few months older. We're gonna split the 1,000 galleons between the three of us if one of us wins, said Lee Jordan, grinning broadly. I'm not sure this is going to work, you know, said Hermione warningly. I'm sure Dumbledore will have thought of this. Fred, George, and Lee ignored her. Ready? Fred said to the other two, quivering with excitement. Come on, I'll go first. Harry watched, fascinated, as Fred pulled a slip of parchment out of his pocket bearing the words Fred Weasley, Hogwarts. Fred walked right up to the edge of the line, stood there, rocking on his toes like a diver preparing for a 50-foot drop. Then, with the eye of every person in the entrance hall upon him, took a great breath and stepped over the line. For a split second, Harry thought it had worked. George thought so, for he let out a yell in triumph and leapt after Fred. But the next moment there was a loud sizzling sound, and both twins were hurled out of the circle as though they had been thrown by an invisible shot putter. They landed painfully 10 feet away on the cold floor, and to add insult to injury, there was a loud popping noise. Both of them sprouted identical long white beards. Hi, Rot. You changed your profile. I did warn you. I did warn you, said a deep, amused voice, and everyone turned to see Professor Dumbledore coming out of the Great Hall. He surveyed Fred and George, his eyes twinkling. I suggest both of you go up to Madame Pomfrey. She is already tending to Miss Fawcett of Ravenclaw and Mr. Summers of Hufflepuff, both of whom decided to age themselves up a little too. Though I must say, neither of their beards is anything like yours. Fred and George set off for the hospital wing, accompanied by Lee, who was howling with laughter, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione, also chortling, went into breakfast. The decorations in the Great Hall had changed this morning, as it was Halloween. A cloud of live bats was floating around the enchantment ceiling. With hundreds of carved pumpkins leered from every corner, Harry led the way over to Dean and Seamus, who were discussing the Hogwarts students of 17 or over who might be entering. Hi, Benji. There's a rumor going around. Warrington got up early and put his name in, Dean told Harry. That big bloke from Slytherin who looks like a sloth. Heck yeah. Love it, right? Harry, who played on the Quidditch match against Warrington, said in disgust. You can't have a Slytherin being champion. And all the Hufflepuffs are talking about Diggory, said Seamus contemptuously. But I wouldn't have thought he'd have wanted to risk his looks. Listen, said Hermione suddenly. People were cheering out in the entrance hall. They all swiveled around in their seats and saw Angelina Johnson coming into the hall, grinning in an embarrassed sort of way. Tall black girl who had played Chaser on the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Angelina came over to them, sat down, and said, Well, I've done it. I've put my name in. You're kidding, said Ron, looking impressed. Are you 17 then? Said Harry. Of course she is. Can't you see a beard? Can't see a beard, can you? Said Ron. I had my birthday last week, said Angelina. Well, I'm glad someone from Gryffindor's entering, said Hermione. I really hope you get in, Angelina. Hear me out. Angelina has been in the book since book 1. I don't even think... What? It hasn't mentioned before that she was black? I swear I would have remembered if they mentioned that Angelina was black. I could have sworn they've never mentioned that before. It's crazy that we're halfway through book 4 and we're only just learning the color of a skin of a character who's been in for all 4 books. Thanks, Hermione, said Angelina, smiling at her. Yeah, you better win than that pretty boy Diggory, said Seamus, causing several Hufflepuffs pause in their conversation to scowl heavily at him. What are we doing today? Then Ron asked Harry and Hermione when they had finished their breakfast and were leaving the Great Hall. We haven't gotten down to visit Hagrid yet, Harry. Okay, said Ron, just as long as he doesn't want us to turn out a few fingers to the Scoots. A look of great excitement suddenly dawned on Hermione's face. I've just realised I haven't asked Hagrid to join Spew yet, said brightly. Wait for me, will you, while I nip upstairs and grab some badges. Good night. What's she like? Said Ron, exasperated as Harry ran up the marble staircase. Hey Ron, said Harry suddenly. It's your friend. The students from Bucks Batons were coming through the front doors from the grounds, among them the Vila girl. Those gathered around the goblet of fire stood back to let them pass, watching eagerly. Madame Maxime entered the hall behind her students and organized them into a line. One by one, the Bucks Baton students stepped across the line and dropped their slips of parchment into blue-white flame. As each of their names entered, it turned briefly fire red and emitted sparks. What do you reckon will happen to the other ones that aren't chosen? Ron muttered to Harry as the Vila girl dropped her parchment into the goblet of fire. Reckon they'll go back to school or hang around to watch the tournament? Don't know, said Harry. Hang around, I suppose. Madame Maxime's staying at the judge, isn't she? Well, when all the Bucks Baton students had submitted their names, Madame Maxime led them back out of the hall into the grounds again. Where are they sleeping then? Said Ron, moving towards the front doors and staring after them. A loud rattling noise behind the students announced Hermione's reappearance with the box of spew badges. Oh, good. Hurry up. Thank you for the rose, Aisha, said Ron as he jumped down the stone steps, keeping his eyes on the back of the Vila girl, who was now halfway across the lawn with Madame Maxime. You got this, Benji. As they neared Hagrid's cabin at the end of the Forbidden Forest, the mystery of Bucks Baton's sleeping quarters was solved. The gigantic blue powder carriage in which they had arrived in was parked between 200 yards from Hagrid's front door. The students were climbing back into it. The elephantine flying horses that had pulled the carriage were now grazing in the makeshift paddock alongside it. Harry knocked on Hagrid's front door, and Fang's booming barks answered it instantly. About time, said Hagrid when he flung the door open and seen who was knocking. Thought you'd forgotten where I lived. Hi, Ray, how are you? We've been really busy, Hermione started to say, but then she stopped dead, looking up at Hagrid, apparently lost for words. Hagrid was wearing his best, and they were horrible, a very brown suit, plus a checked yellow and orange tie. This wasn't the worst of it, though. He had evidently tried to tame his hair using large quantities of what appeared to be axle grease. It was now slicked down into 2 bunches. Perhaps he had tried like a ponytail like Bill's, but had found too much hair. That didn't really suit Hagrid at all. For a moment, Hermione goggled at him, then, obviously decided not to comment, said, where are the Scroots? Out in the pumpkin patch, said Hagrid happily. They're getting massive. Must be nearly 3 foot long now. Only trouble is, they've started killing each other. Oh no, really? Said Hermione, shooting a repressive look at Ron, who was staring at Hagrid's odd hairstyle. And just opened his mouth to say something. Yeah, said Hagrid softly. Okay, though. I've got them in separate boxes now. Still got about 20. Well, that's lucky, said Ron. Hagrid missed the sarcasm. Hagrid's cabin comprised of a single room in the corner of which was a gigantic bed covered in a patchwork quilt. A similar enormous wooden table and chairs stood in front of the fire. Beneath the quantity of cured hams and dead birds hanging from the ceiling, they sat down at the table while Hagrid started making tea and was soon immersed in yet more discussion of the Triwizard Tournament. Hagrid seemed quite as excited as they were. You wait, he said, grinning. You just wait. You're gonna see some stuff you got never seen before. First task. But I'm not supposed to say. Go on, Hagrid, said Harry, Ron, and Hermione urged him. But Hagrid just shook his head, grinning. I don't want to spoil it for you, said Hagrid, but it's gonna be spectacular, I'll tell you that. Them champions are gonna have their work cut out. Never thought I'd live to see the Triwizard Tournament played again. They ended up having lunch with Hagrid, though they didn't eat much. Hagrid made what he said was a beef casserole, but after Hermione unearthed a large talon in hers, Harry and Ron rather lost their appetites. They enjoyed themselves trying to make Hagrid tell them what the task in the tournament were going to be, however, speculating which of the entrants were likely to be selected as the champions, wondering whether Fred and George were beardless. Light rain had started to fall by mid-afternoon. It was very cozy sitting, listening to the patter of the drops on the window, watching Hagrid darning his socks and again arguing with Hermione about the house elf. But he flatly refused to join the queue when she showed her badges. It'd be like doing an unkindness. It'd be doing an unkindness, Hermione, he said gravely, threading a massive bone needle with thick yellow yarn. It's in their nature to look after humans. That's what they're like, see? You'd be making them unhappy just take away their work and insulting them if you tried to pay them back. But Harry set Dobby free, and he was over the moon about it, said Hermione. We haven't heard from him. We heard he's asking for wages now. Yeah, well, you get weirdos in every breed. I'm not saying there isn't the odd elf who'd take freedom, but you'll never persuade most of them to do it. No, nothing doing. Hermione looked very cross indeed and stuffed her box of badges back into her cloak pocket. By 5:30, it was growing dark. Ron, Harry, and Hermione decided it was time to get back up to the castle for the Halloween feast. More importantly, the announcement of the school champion. I'll come with ya, said Hagrid, putting away his darning. Just give us a sec. Hagrid got up, went across to the chest of drawers beside his bed, and began searching for something inside it. They didn't pay too much attention until a truly horrible smell reached their nostrils. Coughing, Ron said, Hagrid, what's that? Said Hagrid, turning around with a large bottle in his hand. Don't you like it? That aftershave, said Hermione in a slightly choked voice. De cologne, Ron muttered. He was blushing. Maybe it's a bit much, he said gruffly. I'll go take it off. Hang on. He stumped out of the cabin, and then they saw him washing himself vigorously in the water barrel outside the window. Eau de cologne, said Hermione in amazement. Hagrid. And what's with the hair in the suit? Said Harry in an undertone. Look! Ron suddenly pointing out the window. Hagrid had straightened up and turned around. If he had been blushing before, it was nothing to what he was doing now. Getting to their feet very cautiously so that Hagrid wouldn't spot them, Harry, Ron, and Hermione peered through the window and saw Madame Maxime and the Buxton students had just emerged from their carriage, clearly set off for the feast too. They couldn't hear what Hagrid was saying, but he was talking to Madame Maxime with a rapt, misty-eyed expression. Harry had only ever seen him wear one before, when he had been looking at the baby dragon, Bobbit. Going up to the castle with her, said Hermione indignantly. I thought he was going with us. Without so much as a backward glance at the cabin, Hagrid was trudging off up to the grounds with Madame Maxime, the Buxbaton students following in their wake, jogging to keep up with the enormous strides. He fancies her, said Ron incredulously. Well, if they end up having children, they'll be setting a world record. Bet any baby of theirs would weigh about a ton. Then they let themselves out of the cabin and shut the door behind them. It was surprisingly dark outside. Drawing their cloaks more closely around them, they set off towards the sloping lawns. Oh, it's them! Look! Hermione whispered. The Durmstrang party were walking up towards the castle from the lake. Victor Krum was walking side by side with Karkaroff, and the rest of the Durmstrang students were straggling along behind them. Ron watched Krum excitedly, but Krum did not look around as he reached the front doors, a little ahead of Hermione, Harry, and Ron. He headed through them. Yeah. What's that, Taylor? Sorry, Taylor, I think your first message got bleeped. I don't know what you said, sorry. We love Hagrid, guys. When they entered the candlelit Great Hall, it was almost full. The goblet of fire had been moved and was now standing in front of the Dumbledore's empty chair at the tea table. Fred and George, clean-shaven again, seemed to have taken their disappointment fairly well. Hope it's Angelina, said Fred as Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat down. So do I, said Hermione breathlessly. We'll know soon now. The Halloween feast seemed to take much longer than usual, perhaps because it was the second feast in 2 days. Harry didn't seem to fancy the extravagantly prepared food as much as he thought would have normally. Like everyone else in the hall, judging by the constantly craning necks, the impatient expressions on everyone's face, the fidgeting and the standing up to see whether Dumbledore had finished eating yet, Harry simply wanted the plates to clear and to hear who had been selected as champion. At long last, the golden plates returned to their original spotless state. There was a sharp upswing in the levels of noise within the hall, which died almost instantly as Dumbledore got to his feet. On either side of him, Professor Karkaroff and Madame Maxime looked as tense as expectant as anyone. Ludo Bagman was beaming and winking at various students. Mr. Crouch looked quite uninterested, almost bored. Well, Goblet of Fire is almost ready to make a decision, Dumbledore. I estimate that it requires 1 more minute. Now then, champions' names are called. I would like them to please come up to the top of the hall, walk alongside the table, and go through the next chamber. He indicated the door behind the staff table, where they will be receiving their first instructions. He took out a wand and gave a great sweeping wave with it, and at once all the candles except those inside the carved pumpkins were extinguished, plunging them into an almost state of semi-darkness. The Goblet of Fire now shone more brightly than anything in the whole hall, sparkling bright bluey whiteness of the flame almost painful on the eyes. Everyone was watching, waiting. A few people kept checking their watches. Any second, Lee Jordan whispered 2 seats away from Harry. The flames inside the goblet suddenly turned red again. Sparks began to fly from it. Next moment, a tongue of flame shot into the air. A charred piece of parchment flooded out of it. The whole room gasped. Dumbledore caught the piece of parchment and held it at an arm's length so that he could read it by the light of the fire, which had turned back to blue. The champion for Durmstrang, he read in a clear, strong voice, will be Victor Krum. No surprises there, yelled Ron as a storm of applause and cheering swept the hall. Harry saw Victor Krum rise from the Slytherin table and slouch upwards towards Dumbledore. He turned right, walked along the staff hall, and disappeared through the door into the next chamber. Bravo, Victor! Boomed Karkaroff so loudly that everyone could hear him even over the applause. You had it in you! The clapping and chatting died down. Now everyone's attention was focused on the goblet again, which, seconds later, turned red once more. A second piece of parchment shot out of it, propelled by the flames. The champion for Buxbatons, said Dumbledore, is Fleur Delacour. It's her, Ron! Gathered Harry as the girl who resembled a Viola got gracefully to her feet, shook back her sheet of silvery blonde hair, and swept up the Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff's tables. Are they all Look, they're all disappointed, Hermione said over the nose, nodding towards the remaining Box Baton party. Disappointed was a bit of an understatement, Harry thought. Two of the girls who had not been selected had dissolved into tears and were sobbing with their heads in their hands. When the Fleur de Claw, who had vanished into the side chamber, silence fell again. The Hogwarts champion next. The goblet of fire turned red once more. Sparks showered out of the top of it. Tongue of red flame shot into the air, and from its tip, Dumbledore pulled a third piece of parchment. That's pretty sick. That's awesome, Noah. I love that people are. I'll check it out after I finish reading, Noah, and let you know. That's awesome, Aisha. The Hogwarts champion, he called, is Cedric Diggory. No, said Ron loudly, but everyone else except Harry, heard the uproar from the next table was too great. Every single Hufflepuff had jumped to his or her feet, screaming and stamping as Cedric made his way past them, grinning broadly as he headed off towards the chamber behind the teacher's table. Indeed, the applause for Cedric went on for so long it was some time before Dumbledore could make himself heard again. Excellent, Dumbledore called happily, as the last tumult died down. Well, we now have our champion. I am sure I can count upon all of you, including the remaining students of Box Batons and Durmstrang. Give your champions every ounce of support you can muster. By cheering your students on, you will contribute in a very real... But Dumbledore suddenly stopped speaking as it was apparent to everyone what had distracted him. The fire in the goblet had just turned red again. Sparks were flying out of it. A long flame shot suddenly into the air, and bore upon it was another piece of parchment. Automatically, it seemed Dumbledore reached out a long hand and seized the parchment, held it out, and stared at the name written upon it. There was a long pause, during which Dumbledore stared at the slip in his hands, and everyone in the room stared at Dumbledore. And then Dumbledore cleared his voice and read out, Harry Potter! What? But Harry's not 17. Thank you for the follow, Ayla. Ayla, this is for you. Just in time. Thank you, follow, Els. Who's? Wait, let me check, Noah. Let me check. How are you, by the way, Noah? No. If you ask one more time, I'll ban you. Simple as that. Is that on Instagram, Noah? Is that on Instagram, Noah? Bye, Benji. Have a great night. Thank you for joining the stream. No, Els. Somebody just followed me on the Purple app, and then immediately, I have watched the Harry Potter movies, and then immediately tried to sell me something, so they're just... I just had to ban somebody on the Purple app. I have watched all the Harry Potter movies, and I own the Harry Potter box set of the Slytherin edition. Because I am a Slytherin. No, you weren't asking anything else. Actually, yes, you were. I asked how you're going. Well, they're not real. That's all I'll say. Is the people who join, they join and then they immediately try and sell stuff. And then the stuff they sell isn't even real art. They just use AI to make it. Favorite character, Cedric Diggory. I love Cedric. His character is just so well written. I'm great. I'm a little sick. I'm getting over it. The later the night goes on, the better I am. That's the thing with Cedric, right? Cedric was quite literally designed. He was a character that was written... Obviously, a lot of people don't like J.K. Rowling and say she wasn't very good at writing. But Cedric Diggory was written in a way that he was... You could tell he was going to die from the moment you met him in the books. because he was just an amazing dude. He was nice, handsome, he was smart. Everything about him was.
Hello, princess.
Thank you for the follow, Champagne. Wait, Champagne, this is for you. Watch the webcam. Watch the webcam. Whip. Hey. He was just such a well-written character. But like it was obvious that he was gonna die. Because he's so good. I only got one notification. You did get twice though. Yeah, that's how it is. What's a character that really affected me? Oh, you know what though? You know who affected me the most when he died? My goodness. When this man, he's too good to us. He's too good, man. Oh, don't even. How are you, by the way, Champagne? Feeling good, I hope? Oh, yeah. Were you Champagne, Els? Or wait, no, you were El. Were you Champagne? Yeah, buddy. Thought so. Well, Els, make sure as well if you're wanting to chat more, you should join my Discord server. It's only small right now. We just had our 133rd member join. Pretty cool. Anyway, say hey to Basil, guys. Yeah, it's a nice little community, and if you subscribe on the Purple app or you become a super fan on TikTok, you get access to the VIP channel. And in the VIP channel, you get entered into giveaways every. Yup. At the start of every month, first day of every month, I do a giveaway. Get excited. It's happening in a couple days. I'm assuming Venom L. Welcome. So L. Just letting you know. So I stream twice a day. I've just accepted you in. So I stream twice a day. The evening I stream every evening, and I do a reading unless something's on. Every now and then I have something on, or like I'm busy, I can't. I try and read as many evenings as possibly can. And then Monday to Friday, I do a gaming stream in the morning, and then at least once on the weekend, I try and do an IRL stream. Well, like I've been doing a lot of like meal prep videos, or I'll do bake, like cakes, slices, and it's just a bit of fun, really. Also, make sure, El, now that you're in the Discord, make sure to go to the Get Rolls channel. And in the Get Rolls channel, you can actually pick a custom color for yourself. Cool. If you select any of these, will then fine. Well, if you're wanting to just see highlights, then I post my highlights on TikTok, and I post highlights on Instagram, And I also, hear me out, I've started now editing videos and posting them onto the Red app. They don't get many views. Like, see, this one here got 35 views. Pretty stoked with that. That's new peep. Yeah. I posted some shorts, but mainly I'm trying to post more videos now onto here. So I've got another one coming out tomorrow as well. Hi, Void. I've got another one coming out tomorrow as well, which is pretty dope. Fun. Thank you, L. Unfortunately, Void, I know you just joined. I will be going to sleep now. I am not feeling well, and I need sleep to catch up on my and much any as I can, but because I feel kind of cooked. But I hope you all had a fabulous stream. I will see you all tomorrow morning for the reading. As always, unless I'm sleeping, I will always be active in my Discord. If you chat, message in the Discord server, I'll be there. I hope you all have a fabulous night. I'm gonna end the live in 3, 2, 1. Bye bye.